What is the instruction about this?
You choose.
Good morning, everybody, especially the ministers that are here. Minister Georgia of the SSA, Minister Mapisa Ngagule, Defense, the generals, both from the SANDF, Babsangweni, and I was told from the South African Defense, and all other senior officials that are here, including the SecDef of the Army. Thank you very much, Chairperson, Minister Jabeni. Over the past 2 days, the ministers from the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security, JCPS cluster, met to discuss the reports they have received from the Joint Operation Committee, JOCOM, of the South African Police Service and Security, which reflects on the incidents of violence and looting which took place in parts of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. These reports have also presented to the ministers the critical intelligence information from the state security agents, South African Police Crime and Defense Intelligence. The intelligence information has provided timeous, critical and sometimes unique analysis information to give early warning signs of potential risk and dangers. The law enforcement officers have used this intelligence information in responding with speed to the issues on the ground and attending to areas which have been identified as potential hotspot areas. All ministers, we are satisfied with all the reports we have received, and we are confident that our law enforcement agencies are able to do their job effectively. In all our operations, we still have the responsibility to save human lives. The current situation on the ground is under strong surveillance, and we will ensure that it does not deteriorate any further. We cannot allow anyone to make a mockery of our democratic state, and we have instructed the law enforcement agencies to double their efforts to stop the violence and to increase deployment on the ground. All ministers of the cluster, we add our voices to that of the President and the many law-abiding and peace-loving South Africans who have strongly condemned lawlessness, violence and destruction that is currently happening in certain areas of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, as reported in the media. We call for an immediate end to this violence, looting and the disregard of the law, and call for an immediate return to the peace and stability. As cluster ministers, we are encouraged and heartened by the outpouring of the messages also on social media platforms by the South Africans who, from all communities and walks of life, who are saying that wanton destruction of property such as shops, malls, taxis, trucks, and other transport infrastructure will not be destroyed in their names. These messages of support echo the attitude of our country that this infrastructure is the lifeblood of our society and economy. Without this, we cannot hope to grow our economy, ensure we all have food and fuel and can go about our daily lives towards the goal of prosperity for all. South Africa is a democratic state that is governed by the Constitution. As the President stated in his address to the nation last night on the 12th July 2021, I quote, "Our Constitution guarantees the right of every person to protest, to organize, and to engage in a free expression and free association," unquote. However, This right of engaging in peaceful protest comes with responsibility of not infringement upon the rights of others who may not want to protest. No amount of unhappiness or personal circumstances from our people gives the right to anyone to loot, vandalize, and do as they please and break the law. We call on the communities to exercise restraint in dealing with the situation and, above all, ensure that innocent civilians are not harmed. We further urge all communities and groups to reject any call for violence and making the country ungovernable. We call upon anyone who has reliable information to report any acts of violence and intimidation to the South African Police Service on the toll-free line of 08600 10111, which is usually known as 10111. We also welcome the announcement by His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa on the 12th July 21 to authorize the deployment of the South African Defence Force personnel in supplementing the capacity of the South African Police in protecting the infrastructure and other operations. We also welcome the recall from leave and rest days of the South African Police members to beef up the policing work on the ground to make sure that the situation is calmed. Our latest report indicates that the total of 757 people have been arrested in KwaZulu-Natal, a total of 304, and in Gauteng, 453 were arrested. Of concern is the loss of lives that has accompanied the incidents of violence and destruction to property. The total number of fatalities that has been reported is 10, with 4 in KZN and 6 in Gauteng. Furthermore, 4 police officers were injured while responding to these violent protests and are recovering well. We further caution South Africans to note that the country is facing the COVID-19 pandemic and we are in the third wave, which is fueled by the Delta variant. Law enforcement agencies are also going to ensure the mass adherence to the adjusted alert level 4 lockdown regulations. That has now been extended by another 2 weeks. The greatest risk for the mass protests that have ensued in parts of the country is the rapid spread of the pandemic, causing a rapid rise in infections and affecting our ability as government and as health system to respond to it. Our health system is already under strain, and current developments put the lives of more South Africans at risk should the infection rise. Disaster Management Act enforcement operations will continue with heightened visibility to ensure that our communities observe the curfew that is in place from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. Do not partake in any gathering, whether indoors or outdoors. Wear a mask at all times when in public place. Adhere to social distancing and health protocols at all times, in particular when attending a funeral with 50 mourners or less, which is the only gathering not prohibited during the level 4 lockdown. South Africans are reminded that washing or sanitizing of hands still remains our best arsenal against this virus. Our communities are also reminded that all social gathering, religious and other gathering, remain prohibited. Night vigils, after funeral gathering and after tears gathering are not allowed. While you may still go to the beach and parks, there cannot be any gathering in those places. The transportation and sale of alcohol, both for on-site and off-site consumption, is prohibited. There will be no traveling into and out of Gauteng during the adjustment level 4 unless it is business related. Anyone found contravening the regulations will be processed accordingly in terms of the law. We also issue a stern warning to those circulating inflammatory messages on various social media platforms which are aimed at inciting violence and disregard of the law. The Cybersecurity Act states that any person who unlawfully makes available, broadcasts or distributes by means of computer system a data message to a specific person, group of persons or general public with intentions to incite violence, or call people to be involved in the destruction of any property belonging to the people is guilty of offense. Those who engage in such acts will be liable for criminal offense and can receive a fine or be sentenced to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 3 years. As the cluster, we are monitoring all social media platforms as we are tracking those who are sharing false information and calling for civil disobedience. We are engaging the different platforms to track and trace the origins of inflammatory posts and messages inciting violence and have requested that these be taken down with immediate effect. While intervention of some of communities to actively stop the mass looting has been commended, we encourage communities not to take the law into their own hands and continue to work with the police. The involvement of other stakeholders is also critical in the fight against lawlessness and in this regard. We have already engaged the leadership of private security companies in an effort to increase better working relationship with the police and other stakeholders. As ministers in the cluster, we have the responsibility to assert the authority of the state and to safeguard our territory integrity and sovereignty on the public, and we shall just do that. Conclusion, we reiterate the words of President Ramaphosa last night when he said, quote, "We are building up, not shutting down. We will not be deterred as South Africans from the task ahead," unquote. If these acts of violence continue unabated, we run the risk of running out of basic foodstuff, and that would be disastrous for the country. We remind all South Africans to mark up, wash up, and keep your distance as we sustain our fight against the pandemic. And finally, register and vaccinate to save South Africans. We thank you. Thank you very much.